This episode of From 9 to Mom is brought to you by Local Social Club. Local Social Club is a kids' snapback hat brand started by two New England moms who couldn't find hats for their toddler boys that felt like their style. Everything felt too childish or gimmicky. Out of that frustration, they started designing snapback hats inspired by their husband's favorite hats, just scaled down for kids. From there, Local Social Club was born. With a classic New England feel and thoughtful details like soft interior linings, adjustable snaps, and signature roping, these snapbacks are made for kids' everyday lives. Use the code FNTM to get 20% off your first order. Welcome back to From 9 to Mom,
where we discuss balancing the 9-to-5 hustle with the beautiful chaos that we call motherhood.
And we need to welcome Missy with Slumber Bloom back to the podcast. Thanks for coming back. Even after our potty training episode, we're ready to talk about part 2.
Yes, thanks for having me back. It's time to dive in again.
We're so excited because I think our potty training episode did really well. And today we're going to kind of focus on the other half of what you do, which is sleep training, sleep consulting.
Yep.
Which is a very precious, precious thing to moms.
Yes, we all need more sleep. And those of us with little kids, doesn't happen, right?
And it happens after you sleep train them.
So yes.
After this conversation, you will feel confident to sleep train your kids. But I think we put a laundry list of things together that we wanted to talk about, Missy. So we're going to kind of just throw the questions at you and let's jump right in. So I think we need to start with what is sleep training? And I think there's so many different definitions online. We even just said before we started the call, there's so many pages and things that do that. But can you break down what sleep training actually is?
Yeah. I mean, in the most simple terms, it's behavioral conditioning of how a child sleeps. That's the most basic that I can put it. It is just whatever. The misconception is where people think oh, I'm not sleep training my kid. You are. No matter what you're doing, if you're co-sleeping, rocking your kid to sleep and sleeping with them all night long, you're conditioning them to sleep that way. If you're doing other strategies to have your kid fall asleep in the crib by themselves, whether it's letting them fall asleep with you by their side, supporting them to fall asleep with as little crying as possible, or if you're ripping the Band-Aid and doing a full extinction method, you're training your child. So however your child learns, they're learning to sleep in a certain way.
Such a different way to look at it.
In the episode,
done. Because the conditioning piece is we are all behaviorally conditioning our kids across the board, right? But with sleep training, there's so many people who are I gave up on sleep training or I'm not doing it. But that action of giving up, you're creating another set of behaviors, whatever that may be. And I think people oftentimes don't think of it that way. If they're not using a specific program, they're I'm not sleep training, but you're doing something. So
yeah. It's training no matter what.
That was my fault.
No, it's such a thing that I'm going to clip that part for sure, because I feel like people have so many opinions. I did a couple searches just trying to find try to get something a little different to talk about on this episode and not, every sleep training thing that everyone's heard on TikTok or whatever. And I think there's a lot of two sides of sleep training. There's parents that are absolutely not, I would never do that. But it's no, even if you're not, you're doing some sort of training. So I think it's fair to talk about why people think the, sleep training, basically, I think when everyone says that, they think you're just letting your kid cry the entire night. And they're how could you do that? But what's the science behind sleep training and that conditioning part that you talk about a little bit more?
Yeah. I mean, it's basically just the way that you're behaviorally teaching your kid to fall asleep on repeat. So I just talked to a mom yesterday with a 13-month-old, and she was I've been rocking her to sleep every single night because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. But she's waking up every hour-ish, needing to be rocked back to sleep every single time she falls asleep. So the way the brain works is that however we fall asleep at bedtime is how we're going to transition each sleep cycle all night long. So if that's being rocked to sleep and then being put in the crib, and then they wake up and they're in the crib and they're wait a second, this isn't how I fell asleep in the first place, they're going to freak out and be why am I here? This isn't where I fell asleep. It would be if you fell asleep on, your mattress in your bed and you woke up on a raft in the ocean. Why am I here? How did I get here? So it's confusing when your child is actually getting mixed signals of you're going to fall asleep here and then I'm going to expect you to sleep through the night, where some babies do, and that's fantastic. And I tell every parent it's sustainable until it's not. I'm not here to judge anybody and say, oh, you're nursing your kid to sleep and then they sleep all night. Fantastic. What do I care? But it's when, like, if you have to nurse your kid to sleep 25 times a night and it's unsustainable, is when we make changes and break that association. So you'll probably hear like sleep association and sleep props and this and that. And that basically just means whatever your kid needs to fall asleep every single time they fall asleep is their sleep association.
I got a text from my best friend this morning as you say that. Literally, she just had a baby in February and she goes, "Can I die from exhaustion and excessive breastfeeding?" And I text her back, "You can answer the
Yes.
question honestly." I said, "Yes, I think you can,
Yeah.
actually. If you're too dehydrated and too tired, right? You
Yep.
technically could, right?"
Yeah. You'll hear every single doctor, like, especially on TikTok, and maybe this is just my algorithm, but every single one where, where like the person goes up to their boss and they're like, rate this on a scale of 1 to 10. And every time they say sleep, the doctor is like 10 out of 10. You cannot function. Your brain waves and everything changes how you function when you are chronically exhausted.
And we just
No,
had someone come on and talk about gut health and sleep. He's like, sleep and stress, like,
Yeah.
very important.
go
Yeah.
right
Sleep
into
is healing. If you're not sleeping, your body is not healing. And it's the same, like for me, like I'm equally as passionate about getting the parents better sleep as getting the child better sleep because you can't be your best mom if you're exhausted and short fused all the time. And your kid is going to be extra clingy, extra fussy. And it's just a cycle. It needs to be broken.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about like your philosophy when you have a mom that's coming to you. Like, how do you start kind of that sleep training, coaching, and consulting?
Yeah. I mean, I have a full intake assessment where I ask all the questions about not only the child, but also the parent. So I'm asking, how old is your child? What milestones have they met? What's their temperament like? What's your parenting style? What's your philosophy on sleep training? How much crying are you comfortable with? Do you want to be in the room while your kid's falling asleep or do you not? Like, there is a laundry list of questions
Yeah.
that I make to customize a step by step plan for them. And for me, I've been doing this for 9 years now, and I've found it so much more effective to meet the parents where they are and customize a plan that maybe I'm blending more than one sleep training method where I'm saying, okay, well, if you're nursing and rocking your baby to sleep all night, every night, your kid's not just going to go in the crib and fall asleep without a dramatic amount of crying. Most parents who come to me don't want a ton of crying. So most of the people will come to me and say, the pediatrician said just have them cry it out and I'm not comfortable doing that. Let's do something else. And so that's what we do.
I think that's really important though, because as we just mentioned before we started all talking, like there's the methods versus you're customizing a entire program. And I think like one of the very first things when I was like maybe 2 months postpartum, I was like, I'm not sleeping. We were formula feeding and like switching formulas and like dealing with all of that on top of no sleep. And I just was like searching Instagram and I got served an ad for Moms on Call, and I instantly bought it because I was like, let's figure it out. And I think that's a good point you made of like how much you're taking in because those other programs, it's like, here's the schedule, but they don't give you additional tools to meet that schedule. But what's your kind of opinion on some of those like Moms on Call, taking care of babies?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to bash like other programs and stuff because it will work for some people. But
Absolutely.
the people who end up hiring a sleep consultant to work one on one are the ones who need a lot of support along the way. So like my program is 2 weeks and you have unlimited text support. We have phone calls throughout the process. We have a sleep log that I am checking several times a day, and I'm communicating through the sleep log as well. So we are pinpointing the child's actual sleep needs. And it's not just, oh, your kid is this age, here's their schedule, because they may not be able to take a 2 hour nap every single day and go to bed at 7 p.m. And like that just might not be life for that child. So having a customized plan for that is where like the benefit lies in hiring a sleep consultant versus just buying a course. A lot of times I'll compare a course to one size fits all, and one on one consulting is I'm getting out of the box and fixing the problem based on where they're at right now and not just saying, this is what we're going to do. No, I'm going to like deep dive into everything and fix the problem, not only for the short term, but for the long term.
Yeah, and I think we had on here, like, okay, how long does sleep training really last? And or, like, how long does it take? And how long does it transition? Like, one of the questions we had was, can sleep training work even if you've already been rocking and feeding your baby to sleep for months?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've had clients, I'm up to 6 years old, who have had these sleep associations forever. And the longer they have these sleep associations and the more gentle the parent wants to sleep train, the longer it's going to take. And that's a conversation I have with every parent is I'm perfectly fine with breaking it down into small chunks for you. And I'm going to lay out nights 1 through 3, nights 4 through 6, like every single time we're making a change to get to the end goal, but they have to understand you have to be 100% committed to following the plan, making the change, and sticking to it and staying open with communication. I tell every single parent, like, if something is like in your sleep plan that you're like, I don't know if this is 100% sustainable, then we'll change it. We'll go back to the drawing board. And like, again, you're not going to get that in a course, but being able to like be flexible with like how we're doing that stuff is going to help, but they need to like be consistent.
So you say committed, consistent, and there's a question in here about what's the biggest mistake. But in my head, I'm already going to, okay, I did Moms on Call, it didn't work. So then I went to taking care of babies, it didn't work. Then I did the plan that my friend's sister-in-law said worked for her kid. Like, would that be the biggest mistake? Is just switching, thinking you're going to find the one?
Yes and no. I mean, most of the time, if you stick to something, like it'll eventually work if your child accepts it. But it really depends, because if you're like leaving the room and like, I don't know what these courses are teaching, but like if you're leaving the room for 15 minutes and that's enough time for your kid to escalate to the point of vomiting, they're not learning anything. So that's not the method for your kid. And it's very common. Like parents will tell me like, I can't leave the room for that long, and I don't make them do that anyways. So it's just like, for me, it's more responsive to the child and not a chart that says how long we're leaving the
Okay.
room.
Yeah. And I think it's important to talk about, like you started saying, they're crying to the point they're throwing up and that, but I think that's a big misconception people are having about like a cry it out method. Like they think that's what sleep training is, but does some sort of sleep training or a cry it out method or anything like that actually harm attachment or like emotional development of a child?
I mean, you're going to find whatever you want on the internet. And I just always go back to the science and the actual peer reviewed studies that have showed that no matter what sleep training method you're using, it's not harming anything at all. And in the long run, so you'll hear a lot about the cortisol. And so that's like the stress hormone. And a lot of people will say, like, oh, well, if you're using like the Ferber method or full extinction, where you're just like putting the baby in and they're let him fall asleep, I'll see you in the morning. Yes, their cortisol is going to rise during that crying time, but when they're sleeping, it's going down and they're evening out. Now, if you think about that process is going to take maybe a couple nights, and your child's going to stop crying. They're going to start talking themselves to sleep, babbling, kicking, like rubbing their head. They're finding a way to self-soothe. They're not crying at all anymore at bedtime. So like it is very effective and it works very quickly, but it is a lot of crying, but it's not damaging. And then you think of like, if parents are like, well, I'm not sleep training, and their kid is up several times a night, their body is not going through that healing process where when you're sleeping, your cortisol drops. So it's actually more beneficial to go through the sleep training, even if you're doing a harsh method and you're not damaging anything. Like, and I'll say, like, with my kids, I mean, I sleep train all three of them differently, but like, I can definitely attest to there's no problem with the attachment.
I get that. And I think I know we have other questions on here, but when do you typically recommend starting any sort of sleep training commitment?
I am a fan of 6 months old. That is when you're through the 4 month sleep regression. You can sleep train at 4 months, but the brain isn't fully ready for nap training. So you can train overnights at 4 months and have a plan for how to handle naps at that point. Progressively increase like how many naps a day are in the crib. And like it's definitely like more commitment to like, this is how we're going to approach naps until 6 months old. But at 6 months, it is like, it's magic. Like, nights are perfecting, naps are getting longer and more consolidated. And it's just a really good time. It's before that 7, 8, 9 month sleep regression with separation anxiety. And then, of course, there's another 12-month sleep regression. So the longer you wait, the harder it's going to get. There's always going to be more excuses. Between like that 4 to 6 month time for at least like bedtime and overnight is like perfect.
What months are the worst sleep regressions? I know there's like the 4 month,
The 4 month is like the most jarring, I think, because you're not really like expecting what a sleep regression really is, especially like because some babies who have a really tough 4 month sleep regression is because they were sleeping great when they were newborn. And I hear it all the time, all the time. They went through the 4 month sleep regression, but before it, they were sleeping completely through the night. And then the 4 month sleep regression hit, and we thought they'd go back to normal, but they didn't. And now, like, we're here at like 8, 9, 10 months old, and they're still sleeping like garbage because they never taught them how to sleep after that 4 month sleep regression. So that one's definitely hard. And then if parents have transitioned to a toddler bed, in my opinion, too soon, the 2 year sleep regression is very difficult because they're so much more verbal and have a lot to say and a lot of no. And when parents have a hard time with hearing no when their child is 2, that regression can become really difficult. And then parents also mistake the 2 year sleep regression for time to drop naps. And 9 times out of 10, it's not.
when do you recommend nap dropping? Never.
I mean, of course, it depends on the child, but I like to wait until closer to 3.
Yeah, I had my older one, he was like 2.5. We were trying to continue his nap, but he would not nap like after the
Yeah.
toddler bed transition. Like he just didn't like it. But
Yeah.
my younger one, I think he's almost 3 now. I think he'll continue naps as long as we'll let him.
Yeah. But my oldest was like that. He napped literally like until the summer before kindergarten.
That's how Colton was.
My
But I also
youngest,
know I liked
yeah.
it.
My youngest was, I want to say between 2.5 and 3. But it also, like, it depends on lifestyle and, like, schedule. So, like, for me, my youngest he was, like, 2.5 during the summertime, and so I had to decide, like, do I wanna let him stay outside and play with all the big kids during, like, nap time or keep a nap and let him stay up later and go to bed, like, instead of not taking a nap and going to bed at 7 or take a 1-hour quick little nap and go to bed at 8. So we kinda held on to the nap for a little bit, and then we were like, "Okay," like, now he's, like, taking a nap and pushing to 10 o'clock. So it really just depends. There's so many different situations that's
Well,
No,
even in daycare, both my
really.
kids go to different daycares, and daycare required nap and quiet time for a certain period, and then they transitioned them out at school or daycare because they knew they had to get them ready for school, where Daisy only goes to half day daycare. So that's on me, like, if we're gonna nap or not. Or with Colton, it was, like, chosen. So that was one of our questions is, like, how do you navigate sleep training when there are others involved? I know some people have night nurses, some people travel for work. Like, what is your suggestion there?
usually it's I mean, I don't really work a lot with families who have a night nurse, because their job is kind of different than what sleep training would entail.
Yeah.
But when the parents are on the overnights, then it's a lot easier to kind of guide them in the direction of exactly what to do at bedtime and overnight. And then for naps, I have them communicate with everyone who is participating in naps, whether it's daycare, nanny, babysitter, grandparents, and let them know, hey, this is what we're doing. We're working with a sleep consultant. I prefer, like, I have one client whose kid is in daycare right now, and all I want is exact nap times. Like, sometimes we'll get like a blanket. Well, nap is from 12 to 2.
Right.
I don't care. I want to know how much is that child actually sleeping
Okay.
that we can navigate when does bedtime need to be because we can't control that. Different daycares are going to have different rules. I see a lot of struggle a lot, honestly, with like once they turn 1 and they want to move the kid up to like that not quite a baby, not quite a toddler
Yep.
room. They want to drop to one nap and some kids can't handle it. So then they end up getting picked up at like 5:30 and they need to go to bed at 6 p.m. because daycare decided to drop them to one nap. But we kind of have to pick and choose our battles. Um, and then the other issue that I see with daycares is if they have to offer the nap and they can't wake a child up if they start falling asleep. And then parents are like, my kid's not falling asleep until midnight. What are we going to do about that? So there are like sometimes I can work with a daycare on keeping the kid awake or waking them after 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
It depends on the place. Like in-home daycares are usually very flexible. Some centers that may be like a national chain might have some very strict rules. So I just ask the parents before we even start, before you do that intake assessment form, find out what the rules are at daycare, and then we'll create your schedule and routines from there.
I always laughed when my younger one does it more, but, like, sometimes, like, just some day we're all pretty sleep trained in this house now, but there were like, just if he's not sleeping well, like, he goes down so early, and I get, like, roundabout numbers, I'm not getting exacts, but he'll sleep for, like, 3 hours, 3.5 hours there, and I'm like, "You slept I paid for you to go sleep there."
Yeah. Because you have a
But
more flexible environment, so he can sleep for 3.5 hours.
and we're in an in-home daycare situation, so she's pretty in tune to each of the kids that are there, so she knows, like, "Hey, he needed to catch up on some sleep," or I'll let her know when we had a rough night or, that, but, it also just it's important to, like, figure out what those rules are and what the people do because I know that, for instance, my sis I know Michelle won't care us using her example, but her 2 kids are in a daycare and they nap lights on, like, in a crib on the side of the room, like, how is a 7-month-old
It's so
napping
hard.
in those yeah, and she's in a room with 12-month-olds, so they're sitting up, making noise, like, moving around, and, that's her nap time.
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, that's when I have infants, like, in an infant room, I'm always like, "Okay, are the cribs around the perimeter of the room with everyone playing in the middle, or is it play area here, eating area here, sleep area here? Because it makes a difference." And sometimes I will even ask, like, if the baby is a very sensitive sleeper, I will have them ask, "Can we move so and so's crib to the furthest corner, at least during our sleep training, so we can try to get better naps?
Yeah.
Can we bring another white noise machine? What can we do to help make this situation better?" Because it also helps the entire classroom. If a child is only sleeping for 30 minutes and then they wake up cranky like that,
Disrupts
it
everyone.
just it yeah, and it like, what's it called? It like takes up one of the teachers to have to go calm that kid down, and then you might have one teacher on 7 other kids who are under a year old. So it gets very difficult for everybody involved.
I
Yeah,
think
it's a
that's
good
one of
point.
the benefits of I didn't even know I don't think that sleep coaches specifically existed the way you are a sleep coach. I thought you bought a program or you had to be like a
You read a book.
bajillionaire and bring somebody in
Yeah.
to sleep at your home. But the benefit, like you're saying, is everybody's kid is different, situation is different, personal like lifestyle is different. The fact that you can communicate and help parents ask the right questions or do the right things with their daycare situations is such a big bonus because for me, I didn't even ask those questions, right? Like I didn't know that to ask those questions. I just thought the way it is the way it is and we have to work around it, right?
Heck no, you're paying them.
Like
It's
like
a good
some
point, though, like,
but we
people
don't
don't
think that way.
Yeah,
especially first-time moms, like,
right.
you don't know the age to do it, you don't know to act like, you feel kinda just pressured to be one of the numbers in the class, right, or however it is, but you did mention white noise, and I wanna get into because we put, like, on here, like, "Let's talk about tools," but don't let me forget because I wanna talk about, like, toddler sleep and switching to, like,
Okay.
beds and stuff. But so, like, I know, like, taking care of babies, moms on call, they have, like, a recommended list of their sleep tools. So, like, we have the Hatch sound machines in our house, but then we put on here, like, pacifiers/binkies, or we call them TTs in our house.
I'm not
What's
against
your
them.
thing? Pro.
After 6 months old, the binky is for sleep only. It stays in the crib. After you pick up that baby in the crib and you get those like sleepy, stretchy snuggles, you say bye bye binky and you put it in the crib together and you go about the day. That way, they're only associating it with sleep, and that's a positive sleep association. The white noise, positive sleep association. It's not something that you need to physically get up and get out of bed to do. which brings me to the next point. At 6 months old, your baby should be able to start putting it in their mouths by themselves. So we like to sprinkle pacifiers in the crib and let them find it on their own. During sleep training, babies are either going to attach to the binky and use it in their own way. Like sometimes I kind of giggle when I like hear this story, but like I do hear frequently, well, they're not using it right. They're just kind of chewing on it. Who cares?
It's a good point. Who
It's
cares?
soothing.
Rainbow should be gone, but she has one in her mouth in bed and one up her nose. Like she literally puts it at her nose.
Well, my oldest, we called it his backup bink because he had the one in his mouth and he had one he would like, it was like the green soother ones, and he would keep it on his finger all night.
Emotional support binky.
And yeah, so if it is helpful, then keep offering it. If it is a problem where you have to get up every hour, like every sleep cycle, which can be 30 to 45 minutes, and you have to pop that pacifier back in their mouth, that's not useful. So that's when it's like, let's reduce the use of this and find other ways to self-soothe. It doesn't mean you can't use it at all anymore. And I'm not against it. I'm just against parents having to get out of bed 50 times overnight to give it back. And then as far as like when to get rid of it, I like to wait until 2.5. There's a lot going on between 2 and 3, between transitioning to the toddler bed, 2-year sleep regression, potty training, potential nighttime potty training, because we know that those are 2 different things, losing the pacifier, possibly getting a new sibling, maybe starting a preschool. There's so many big changes around then that I don't see a point. And especially if you're following my rule where the pacifier is only for sleep, it is not that big of a deal to keep the pacifier until your child is old enough to start understanding, okay, we need to do bye-bye binky. And I'm all for the cute strategies. Plant that binky and have little lollipops grow. I don't care what you do. I love cheesy toddler strategies because anything a toddler loves and can get down with, great.
Yeah.
As long as there's like no harm to anybody else involved, fantastic.
Absolutely. I think too, you mentioned like one of the things being adding additional siblings in. How does that typically, I'm sure it's in your intake form when you talk to that, but what's like your general, opinion or something you can share about having like a little one in the house, but you have a toddler that's just sleeping. Now you have another one that's crying in the night, like managing both schedules too. Cause I mean, I
Yeah.
had 2 under 2. We were sleep
Same.
training everybody at the same time for the most
Yeah.
part.
I mean, the biggest thing is like when I was pregnant with my second, I would literally go through my day and be like, okay, so this is the routine with the oldest. I know the chaos of a newborn. During these times, I can, like do XYZ with the newborn or try and get a shower, or like there will be overlapping naps. And this is like people might get mad at this word, but you need to train your kid to be able to play independently, because your toddler needs to be able to play or do something independently, look at a book, do something so that you have a little bit of sanity. And it's okay. Put your kid on the floor to play. Let them play with toys and just sit back and watch. You don't have to entertain your kid 24 hours a day. And one other thing that I really enjoyed doing with my first and second, because they're only 16 months apart, was whenever I was feeding my second, my baby, my first was sitting right next to me reading her a book. So we're getting that special, like, you're not really interacting with a newborn while they're eating. You don't want to be, because they need to get it done and move on until they're older. Like, whatever. Yeah, it's all bonding. It was just a job for me. It was never like, oh, I love this. Like, fantastic, wonderful, do that at bedtime. But during the day, when you have more than one kid, like, give the other kid a job. If you're changing diapers, change both of their diapers at the same time. So like those kind of things, I'm like, okay, well, if we're doing a meal, then, the toddler's in their high chair having their meal. Maybe the baby is sitting facing the toddler, watching them eat. So they're getting FaceTime with that kid instead of just always looking at you. They're making bonds with their siblings. So always just kind of thinking of like those things that you can incorporate into the day to make it easier. Have like specific times. Like, I mean, newborns are so easy because they'll sleep anywhere. have a specific time, like cater to your toddler's schedule. If your toddler has one nap a day and you know that's going to be the same time every day because they're sleep trained and they're going to be on the schedule, and you want to be able to go to the playground in the morning, have breakfast, go to the playground, come back, do the nap, live your life. Like it with newborns, it's like it's so much easier than people think.
There was no better feeling than when the first time that our naps aligned for
And
both
then they started taking naps
and they were
together.
both napping. We're like, "This is it. We have, 30 minutes, but it's something." It was, like, the most rewarding when they were both finally asleep. So, I wanna talk about 2 toddlers and, like, transitioning to big kid beds. What's your, like, age recommendation on that?
I don't like to transition before 2.5. It's very similar to the pacifier thing where their cognitive ability and just like boundaries under 2.5, they may not understand that there may not be a physical boundary of a crib. Like this
Yeah.
is my crib, I sleep here, I stay here. As soon as you give them freedom, if they're not like mentally mature enough. I hate using the word mature with a 2-year-old, but if they don't understand, this is still my bed and I have to sleep here, I have to stay here after mommy says goodnight, they're just going to get up and follow you out. But you either need to have a baby gate. Like, of course, there's kids. Like, my daughter was a climber. She climbed out of her crib at 18 months old, and I definitely rigged the crib so she couldn't. But if you can't do that, then you might have to switch to a toddler bed. And in that case, put a mattress on the floor, toddler proof the room, and close the door or put a gate at the door. They don't have to stay in bed. And that I think is one of the biggest like struggles that I think a lot of parents face when they're moving their kid to a bed because they are going to explore that freedom. Make it safe. Make it safe. Because my daughter's room like might have looked like a jail cell, but she was safe. She had a mattress. I took her dresser out of her room and I put it in my room until she learned bedtime is bedtime and I stay in bed. But they need to get up and explore. So just keep it safe for them. Either have a gate at the door, use a childproof knob. There's things, I think it's called like a door monkey, that it's like an app on your phone and you put it on their doorknob and like they can open the door and get out of their room, but it sends you a notification
I
that
think
they
That
I've
they
left.
seen
left.
that. I think I've
I would
seen
never do that because
it would be
no way. My fear was always, is my child going to get up in the middle of the night? I'm not going to hear her or some stupid alarm on my phone that I'm probably not going to hear. And she's going to go outside and take a walk.
Did that to
Yeah.
my mom. So that stresses me out so bad because she tells me the story all the time. I'm like, "Yeah, I just opened the door and left."
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah."
And some parents are like, oh, you want me to like lock my kid in their room? Change your mindset. You're keeping your child safe in their room.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, well, if you don't want to use that, then put a gate up. Oh, they're going to climb over a gate. Like there's always an excuse. Let's stop
Yep.
making excuses and start finding solutions.
No, I like that. And then I do because you said it in the beginning. You said sleep training can last until like sometimes 6 years old. So I know parents who are entering that era of parenting and now their kids, Daisy, she wakes up, she's 3. She wakes up, she calls for me. She will not leave bed until I come release her from bed. But in a year or whatever, she may decide I can get out of bed.
Yeah.
There's people I know that are dealing with issues with their kids leaving. They're awake and they want to wake everyone else in the house up. And there might be a baby that's still sleeping, or the parents don't want to wake up at 4:30 a.m. I've heard a lot of different strategies. You can do the hatch light, like the alarm, screen, go. Like any suggestions for parents who are dealing now with later life regression or new sleep
Yeah.
training?
I mean, I love toddlers and preschoolers for the reason that they can communicate and they can be held accountable. They can make their own choices and there will either be rewards or consequences. And it's something that like I'll teach parents my what's it called? Like my reward strategy. And I'll teach them my consequences strategy. And it's not just for sleep. It is for all behavior because sleep training is behavior modification. So every time, like even like the rewards that you use for potty training,
Mhm.
you can use it for picking up your room or helping with the dishes or like whatever behavior you're trying to modify, you can use rewards and consequences. And so if you're using the and it's like, okay, red is for bed, green you can be seen, do not get out of bed if the light is red, and they get out of bed, they're either going to not get a reward and that's going to be enough for them to be upset, or there's going to be a consequence of okay, you got out of bed, so you can't have XYZ. And every kid is different, where some respond very well to a reward system, some don't care. Some kids are like, I don't care if you give me something, but I do care if you take something away. And you have to know your child. So, like, where I say, like, with potty training, like, if a kid just decides, I don't want to stop what I'm doing, I like this toy, I'm going to pee my pants, you're taking that toy away for the rest of the day if that's a child who's more affected by consequences. It's not mean, it's a natural consequence. So using like any natural consequence around the situation is best. So like if your child doesn't like their door being shut, but they refuse to stay in bed, it's I will give you 3 chances. Stay in bed or your door gets shut. If they get to 3 and
You
they're
got
still
shut
getting
that
out of
door.
bed, you shut that door and you need to keep it shut. And that's where like the consistency and the follow through and sticking with it and being committed, that's where that all comes in handy. And sometimes parents are like, oh, I feel mean. It's not mean. You're parenting your child. Like you can't always be their best friend. And you have to have boundaries and you have to stick with them, especially with toddlers and preschoolers, because if you give an inch, they're taking 500 miles.
Well, you have to restart all, like really
Yeah.
restart all over again. And you said that when I was taking the potty training course. And I think that that's one of the biggest things, takeaways for me, because I have a lot of people in my kids' lives who help support. So, like picking timing of when you can actually show up as the parent and make sure that it's consistent is important. Like the other piece of that is it was so close in certain moments where people were like in my life where like just put the diaper on her because we're taking a trip in case she pees. And I'm like, no, like if she pees, she pees. Like we can't take a trip longer than 30 minutes right now. And if she pees, we have to be prepared that she peed to talk through it and like whatever. And that was hard,
Get the piddle pad.
inconvenient for
Right.
people. And
Yeah.
that's like the thing, like you're saying, like
Sorry, I have a kid.
you've got to
Yeah.
make it, you all have to be on the like the same mental page that like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter how inconvenient this is for us. Like we're gonna, I and it's like you're saying, you're not being mean by shutting the door. Yes, they're gonna cry. They don't want the door shut, but if you don't do it, they're gonna know I can still get out of bed.
Yeah.
Mommy and daddy aren't gonna shut the door. It's
Right.
just
Like, especially like when there's parents who are a little bit apprehensive about doing that, the way that they tell their child, okay, I need to shut the door now because you're not listening to the rules. These are the rules and you are not following them. I need to shut the door. I will come back and kiss you once you're asleep. That's not mean. It's
yep,
very loving. It's very caring. It's, like there's a way to communicate things with your child. If you're like, you got out of bed 3 times, I'm shutting your door. Slam. Yeah, that's mean.
yeah,
But
and
there's a
stern.
loving way to communicate rules and boundaries with your child. And that's where like the misconception of sleep training comes in. Is like, oh, I'm just gonna close the door until morning. Well, no, I'll come back and kiss you. I still go in and kiss my kids all the time.
Me too.
They're fine.
Well, I think that's a good point, though. A lot of people struggle with, like, oh, it's mean, especially going from like newborn, like that first year, like they're just your little buddy. Yeah, you do some sleep training, but like they can't talk to you. There's no communication with that. And I feel like I've just started to get to the point of like disciplining and like some of that. And it is a struggle for a lot of people because they're like, wait, like they're just so cute and innocent and that, like, how can I be mad? But then your kid starts pushing your buttons and and
And
you're
then
like,
they're not so
I
cute in
have
that
to do
moment.
something about this. I can't just be their friend anymore. And me and a couple of my friends are like, are you just constant like, do you feel like you're yelling all the time? And it's like sometimes when they're trying, but this is like a good mindset, like
Yeah.
adjustment of like, okay, well, there are more moments. Yes, we yell in this house. And I know not everyone does, but like sometimes it's like that's how you get their attention. Do we do that all the time? Absolutely not. So your point of like how you communicate is important in making it seem like mom's not the bad guy. Like I want to communicate in a loving way, but here are the rules. I feel like it's a really big adjustment to
Yeah.
that.
And I think too, like with toddlers, like giving them responsibility at bedtime and like having visual charts. Like I have free bedtime routine cards that also comes with morning routine cards where parents can print them out and hang them at their child's level. So it's okay, start the bedtime routine. What do we do first? And your child's in charge. They're going to go brush their teeth. And either they're going to brush their teeth first and then you're going to check and make sure they did a good job or the other way around, like however you want to do it. Give your toddler autonomous capabilities. Let them do things by themselves because that's what toddlers need to do. That's literally in their brain. They are learning that they can do things for themselves. Let them. Then bedtime will go better. Let them pick their pajamas. Does it matter if they're on backwards? No. Who cares? Let them. Let them pick the book that they want to read. If you don't want to read certain books at bedtime, take them out of the room and don't let it be an option. Let your child pick. Okay, go pick 2 books. We'll read. Let's sit in the rocking chair. You can turn the pages. Oh, it's time to turn off the light. You go turn it off. Turn on your white noise. Let's go say night night out the window when we close the blinds. Night night moon, night night stars, like all the things. And your kid has all these things that they've already done independently, and they've made all these choices that when it's time to get in bed, and they have all these visual cues. So it's less pressure on the parent saying, okay, now you do this, now you do this, now you do this. It's just demand, demand, demand. But when you put it on the toddler, it is so much more rewarding too. When you see like, wow, my kid is capable of so much.
And they
What
feel
you
good. They feel good. You feel good. It's like a double looped reward system for
Yeah.
everybody involved. And that is hard. I like to be in control of certain things.
Nah, you gotta
I
let it go.
just kind of gotta let, and I did exactly what you said. Like, these are the books that we're gonna have in here. These are the pajamas. Like, you go pick, because I had some control, but like not full control. And I'm not gonna correct you because they're on backwards. Whatever, it's fine.
Type A moms probably have a very hard time with toddlers.
Like, it's just different. I'm not even full type A, but it's still still hard. And I don't know. I think that that's like what you're saying is so important, because the earlier you get to go down that path, it is hard. I will tell you from experience, I did not do that very well with Colton. Daisy, it's been much harder to break it, because I controlled for a lot longer in that scenario. But I know we're coming up on time, and I just want to make sure 2 things. One, what's one tip that you wish you could tell every parent? Like, the one thing you would tell every.
It is not your job to put your child to sleep. Your job is to give your child the tools to be able to fall asleep on their own.
This is this is gonna lead to a follow-up for you. What if, and this is not part of the follow-up,
what if
but what if you're the type of parent, I'm gonna use myself as the example, okay? Colton's getting older. I like to put him to bed. It's when he talks to me, he tells me all the things that,
My kids too. It's the best
and
time of day.
best time for me. And
Yeah.
one day he's gonna look at me and say, Mom, this is cringe. Right now he told me I'm Riz, but I'm gonna be cringe soon. So like, I'm scared it's gonna end, but he does want me still to put him to bed. What should I be doing in that scenario?
Well, I mean, is he sleeping through the night after that?
Yeah.
Then fine.
Okay.
Do it for as long as you want to.
Because I'm doing it because I want to, not that it's my job.
Right.
Right? Okay. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
No, what I normally see is like the mom I mentioned at the beginning who was like, I rocked her to sleep because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. But
Okay.
when she has to do it all night long, then that's not sustainable. It's not working anymore. That's when we make changes.
Okay.
So for me, I'm like, whatever works for you is what works for you. I'm not out here to change like everyone's favorite part of their day and take away their cuddles. I could never. I get in my kids' beds at night and I cuddle with them and we talk about their days. I don't know if they'll be cringed out that I'm telling this, but they're 9, 11, and 12. And I'm still getting in their beds. I'm rubbing
This
their
gives me
back.
hope for my future.
Yeah, like boys boomerang. They'll be like, don't get in my bed. Like that's weird. And then they'll come back and be like, can you get in my bed? Like my 12-year-old, he'll be like, oh wait, let me move and get comfortable. Let me move over, give you some room. Okay. They still
Yeah,
get in my bed in the morning. We cuddle before they go to school. Don't tell them I told you.
I won't tell them, but I'm going to tell my son if he tells me to get out. But I know moms. Just
I
he
know.
hasn't told me yet.
You know, don't
But it's
tell them.
okay.
How
Yeah,
old
I
is he?
can't even think about that. We do have as part of our routine every night, and my younger one does it now, and it's the cutest he's 2.5. And he goes, let's talk about our day. And
I
like
love it.
that's part of like after we do books, we
Yeah.
turn the light off, and that's what they both want to do as soon as we do it. And they like tell us their version
Yeah.
of the day.
And that's actually something I tell parents to do when the child's going through separation anxiety. I don't care how old they are. You have to start young with narrating things and telling them about the day. Tell them what you're doing, like newborns. Mommy's gonna go pee pee. Tell them what you're doing.
You gotta
Because
talk to
as they get
somebody.
older, it helps. And when they're going through separation anxiety, talking about the day and all the wonderful things they did, it helps. Talking about what they're going to do tomorrow, it helps. Having something to look forward to, as long as it's not like, we're going to Disney World tomorrow, they're never going to go to sleep.
Yeah.
But like, as long as you're within reason, It's all good.
Well, we appreciate having you on. I feel like we could talk for
We
hours
did.
about this stuff. So, if anyone out there has questions for Missy, we have all of her contact info attached to these episodes so you can reach out, send us a message on Instagram, tag her. She'll be on there and available. And if you're interested in any of her sleep consultant information, we'll have her link to her website here too. So,
Yeah.
Slumber in Bloom is the
Yep.
name of
And
Missy's
there's
group.
always a free 15-minute introductory call. So if people are like, not sure, is this for me? Are we a good fit? Let's just chat. Like, there's no harm in booking a quick
Yeah,
15-minute call.
that's huge.
Amazing. Well,
You
thanks
never
so
know
much
the
for
possibilities.
right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We'll
Thanks for
see you
having
all
me.
next time.
Bye.